Good morning, I'm Seay from Seay Real Estate. A question that we often get asked by our buyer clients, or a point of confusion perhaps that we often witness with our buyer clients, is the difference between an inspection and an appraisal. These are typically the only two things in our market that the buyer has to pay for in advance of closing on the purchase of their home. And there's a difference, a pretty big difference. The home inspection, the buyer hires an inspector to look at the house from top to bottom, from the top of the roof to under the crawl space if the house has one, or in the crawl space. And the home inspector is looking for defects, looking for leaks, looking for electrical issues, looking for things that aren't functioning the way they're supposed to. And you know what? They usually find them, and they find plenty. That's what they're getting paid to do. Of course, what we're looking for mainly are major defects, but no home, or practically no home, is without defect. So that's a home inspection. Buyers then will have the right to ask the seller to address those repairs or to give them a credit so that they might have them fixed themselves. And if we can't reach an agreement, the buyer can back out. The appraisal, on the other hand, is usually done to satisfy the buyer's lender. The bank wants to make sure that the house is worth what the buyer's paying for it. And the buyer pays for this as well, this appraisal. And certainly during the appraisal, there's an inspection, but it's not a home inspection. It's not as detailed as what I described a minute ago. The appraiser will go to inspect the property, but he or she, they're not typically in the attic and in the crawl space and looking at all the systems and components. If there are any real obvious defects, they'll make a note of it on the appraisal report, and sometimes the lender will say we won't loan money unless this gets addressed. But the appraiser's main objective is to determine the value of the house. So they're inspecting the property so that they can gather all the information about it, the square footage, the condition it's in, making notes of some of the systems and that they appear to be functioning, and then taking that information from their property inspection and doing their appraisal. They're comparing it to other properties. Was it bigger or smaller? Properties that have sold recently. You know, is this house they're looking at bigger or smaller? Is it in better shape or worse shape? How does it compare? And then if those houses sold for this much, well, then the one that this appraiser just inspected ought to be worth this much. Usually the appraiser will compare the house to at least 3 recent sales. So that's the difference between an inspection, a property inspection, a whole house inspection, some people call it, and an appraisal. The buyer pays for both before they can buy the house. Both need to be satisfied before everything is completed. And we normally see our buyers get through these processes beautifully. So if you're about to buy a house, your realtor can fill you in on these subtle nuances and much more, but I just wanted to share that with you today. I hope you have a great week.